Lesson 7 Packing by Jerome K. Jerome. Jerome Klapka Jerome was born on May 2, 1859 in Calmore, Walsall, England. He obtained his school education at St. Marylebone Grammar School. He was an English writer and humorist. He is best known for the comic travelogue Three Men in a Boat. Apart from this, he wrote some essay collection, which is Idle Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, Second Thoughts of an Idle Fellow, Three Men on the Bummel, and some other novels. He breathed his last on June 14, 1927. Jerome's father died when he was only 13, and his mother died when he was 15. He was brought up in poverty in London. Jerome wished to enter politics or be a man of letters, but the death of his parents forced him to quit his studies and find work to support himself. Now, in the story Packing, the author Jerome K. Jerome tells us that before starting any journey, we should plan and prepare for it well. Otherwise, we have to face a lot of difficulties. We should not take any task very easy or leave it on others. Our life is also a journey, and we meet with complex situations many times while continuing our journey. But if we have pros to deal with them, we do not have to experience too much pain. Through this story, the author tells us that the thing that seems to be very easy may not be as easy as we think. Packing things in a bag is not a difficult task, but it made a mess because it was not done with a proper plan. This chapter, Packing, is taken from the novel Three Men in a Boat, written by Jerome K. Jerome. The story is about the art of packing. The chapter is about a humorous incident which happened when the narrator and his other two friends were packing for a boat trip. Now about the characters here. There are 4 characters. One is Jerome, the narrator, who considers himself to be the master of packing. The other one is Harris, a friend of the narrator, who irritates him by raising his legs on the table when the narrator was packing the bag. Third character is George, another friend of the narrator, who sat on a chair while the narrator was packing the bag. The last character is Montmorency. He was a pet dog of the narrator. He irritated George and Harris by sitting on things that were to be packed. He was chased down by Harris. Now let's begin the chapter. I said I would pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things that I feel I know more about than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely on me. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. George spread himself over the easy chair, and Harris cocked his legs on the table. Here, the narrator, Jerome, boasts of being the master of packing. The narrator was going on a trip with his friends, George and Harris. He told them that he would do the packing. They accepted his offer and relaxed while he packed the bag. So, George spread himself over the easy chair, and Harris cocked his legs on the table, and they were watching to Jerome when he was packing the bags. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boast the job, and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions. I pushing them aside every now and then with, "Oh, you, here, let me do it. There you are, simple enough." Really teaching them, as you might say. They are taking it in the way they did irritated me. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. So the narrator's real intention was to supervise his friends in packing. He wanted to teach his friends how to pack. However, they misinterpreted him, and as a result, narrator had to do the whole packing. I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. He said it did him real good to look on at me, messing about. Now, I'm not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help it. Here, Jerome, the narrator, recalls an incident that took place when he was living with another man. So, when he lived with a man once, he used to make him mad. That means he would loll on the sofa, that man, while Jerome did all the work. He said it did him real good to look at me messing about. Now he says that he is not such kind of man, and he doesn't like to supervise. He likes to and walk around with folded hands in his pockets and tell him what to do. He has to get up and supervise, see others, give guidance. It is his energetic nature, and he cannot help that out. He cannot sit lying down or sit watching others doing the work. So he says that he has to get up and supervise others. That is his nature. However, I did not say anything, but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be. But I got the bag finished at last, and I sat on it and strapped it. "Aren't you going to put the boots in?" said Harris. And I looked around and found I had forgotten them. That's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I had got the bag shut and strapped, of course. And George laughed, one of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. I opened the bag and packed the boots in. And then, just as I was going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream that I haven't packed it and wake up in a cold perspiration and get out of bed and hunt for it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag. And then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in my pocket handkerchief. So the narrator started packing. It took him a bit longer than he had expected. He packed the bag but forgot to put the boots inside. So he had to reopen the bag and put them in. He forgot whether he had put his toothbrush in the bag or not. So he had to open the bag again and empty its contents. He put the contents back in the bag by shaking them one by one and found his toothbrush inside a boot. Of course, I had to turn every mortal thing out now, and of course, I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state that they must have been before the world was created, and when chaos reigned. Of course, I found George's and Harry's 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. I put the things back one by one and held everything up and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So, the narrator had to reopen the bag and put them in. He forgot whether he had to put his toothbrush in the bag, so he had to open the bag again and empty its contents. He put the contents back in the bag by shaking them one by one and found his toothbrush inside a boot. He had to reopen the bag once again as he had forgotten his spectacles in the bag. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't, and I slammed the bag shut and strapped it, and found that I had packed my spectacles in it, and had to reopen it. It got shut finally at 10 p.m., and then there remained the hampers to do. Harry said that he said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better do the rest. And I agreed and sat down, and they had a go.